Welcome to my Onan BGM. And unfortunately, he's sickly at the moment. One more time. Well, he's a little camera shy, but otherwise runs great on camera. The problem is he seems to have a fueling issue, that whenever there's load on him, it'll bog down sometimes, and you can see that the carburetor is trying to catch itself, but it's really hard for it to sustain running at a constant RPM. My suspicion is we got a carburation issue. We just need to flush it out. And I noticed that, my word, this is probably the original Onan fuel filter. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and service that. So I'm going to put in a new fuel filter. I'm going to flush the carburetor. And while I'm at it, I'm going to replace these fuel lines because these are the original fuel lines, and you might notice, I'm not sure if you can see it, we have a little bit of cracking on the fuel line up here. And I looked at the line going to the pump, same thing. So to prevent the fire risk while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and replace the fuel lines for safety. We have our new genuine Onan fuel filter. Be careful when ordering these. It helps if you first look what you have, because I ordered the wrong one, the one that has threads down here and not the actual barb fitting. Oops. So be sure you check what you have first. Let's see. So let's go ahead and remove the old line. I'm also going to go ahead and check to make sure the fuel pump is working well, because maybe we have a fuel delivery issue that's causing the problem. And I'm going to do the very low-tech solution of I'm going to put my finger over the hose and run the fuel pump. For a carbureted engine, the fuel pump should only be putting out like 5 to 8 pounds of fuel pressure. So it's not one of those things where it has to be incredibly accurate. Basically, if it can blow by your finger, you have enough fuel pressure. So I'm going to do the amazing fire risk way of doing it is just put my finger over it and hope I don't get sprayed in the eye. So let's hit the start. I'm not sure if you can see that, but oh dearie me, do we have lots of fuel pressure. So we're good in that regard. We have enough fuel pressure, so that's good. Now all we need to do is swap out the old filter. Alright. And in with the new filter. I do not have my new fuel line yet because I just discovered, oops, we need to replace it. So I'm going to be ordering that, and I might wait to finish the video to show you that, although it would be truly boring to watch me route a new fuel line. But for the time being of testing out the motor, and let's go ahead and flush it. It doesn't matter what we use as a fuel line. Alright, good and snug. Let's slide this back on here. Slide this up. Alright, now we're ready to go underneath, disconnect the fuel line, the rubber line from the frame that's going to the fuel pump, and put that in a vessel that we'll have mixed up with our flush. So I guess first, let's see what the flush is. To clean out the carburetor, I'm going to use this, Berryman B-12. I bought this at my local automotive store. Reading the label on the back, I discovered they make a super concentrated version of it for systems that have been truly neglected. Well, they didn't have that at the local store, so I just bought this one. I read on the forum saying this is supposed to be great. I don't know which B-12 they're referring to. We'll just try the generic one. The instructions say that you're supposed to mix 1 ounce of this per gallon of gasoline. We'll see about that. What my plan of attack is going to be is mix up a little external amount, let this run until it completely consumes all of it. Then I'm going to put the fuel line directly into this, let the fuel pump pull this straight into the carburetor, more or less, and let that soak for about an hour or so. Then hook it back up to the RV fuel system and let it run for a while just to clean all that out. I'm going to have a slight load on it, not a lot of load, but hopefully I won't do any, I know people say that you should not let the generator run unloaded, so I'm going to put a little load on it. Not a big load, just want it to run. So you might be wondering, where's my gallon of gas? Okay, so it's not really a gallon, or I'm worried you might be thinking, man, he has freakishly large hands. So let me put this back down because I need to open the Berryman. So let's open this up there. Here we go. And again, this is supposed to be 1 ounce per gallon. Let's just pretend this is a gallon, and let's pretend this is a college night ounce, where you just keep pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring. Yeah, sure, let's pretend that was an ounce. Alright, so we have a slightly heavier concentration than what they recommend. We'll see. What's the worst that could happen? Truth be told, in this situation, the worst that could happen is I bugger up this carburetor some more. It's already buggered up. If I wasn't such a cheap bugger, I would just replace the carburetor. This is an old generator, it's not brand new, with 7 hours on it. Something's got to give in that carburetor, so hopefully this will just clean out whatever's in there. I did notice when I pulled off the old fuel filter, there was some of that white death. That's just a term I've always known it as. Some of that fuel oxidation inside the carburetor of the aluminum. I don't know what's really doing in that fuel filter though, because that's not aluminum. I don't know. But anyways, so here's the plan of attack. Stop spilling this on me. I'm going to crawl under there, remove the fuel line from the actual hard line, and I'm disconnecting the rubber line that hooks onto the frame rail where it goes into the hard line. From there it then goes to the fuel pump. So this will drop in there, and then it's getting its fuel just from here. And I'm going to seal this up a little bit. I don't know how long it's going to use to run this, and I'm not going to film it. You already heard it run once. It apparently likes being on video because second time the charm, it fired up and ran fairly well. So hopefully this will help it clear its throat a little more. Alright, stay tuned. Well, I went through with that plan and I have some thoughts. It didn't work. That plan is a bad plan and I would not recommend going that route. So what did I observe and learn? Well, the present state is, what's the worst that could happen? I've ordered a new carburetor, which is what I should have done in the first place. I was being cheap, and 7 hours of runtime on a 15-year-old generator. Replace the carburetor. Everyone was screaming, just replace the carburetor. I said, let's give it a try. It was a miracle I got it running as well as it was. It's done. So what happened? Well, I had it set up running on the external tank, the little bottle. And it's funny for me because this is day 2. For you, this is minute 4 or whatever. But it ran great. It initially under load, it did its loping. As it got to about 1.5 inches left of fuel in that jug, it actually cleaned up and started running well. It's incredible. You could hear it getting better and better and better. The logical thing would have been shut it down, do a second batch. And that's my big tip of, it seemed like you can go a little bit stronger than what they recommend, and you saw what I mixed, and that was definitely stronger than 1 ounce per gallon. That was all fine, that was working well. Don't go crazy with it, because what I did, instead of doing a second batch to let it run, I went ahead and took what 1.5 inches left of the mixture and then just dumped on top of it a couple more ounces of just that B-12 cleaner, whatever it is. Wrong thing to do. It ran for a couple minutes on it and then died. Looking at the ingredients of that stuff, one of the first ingredients they list is something that, it's a simple word that I have problems pronouncing, toluene or whatever it is, the T-O-L-U-E-N-E or whatever it is. That stuff's a really nasty chemical, but it's a fantastic octane booster. And when you buy actually the nice octane boosters for whatever your application might be, you'll see that typically they're going heavy with that stuff, and that's famous back in the Formula 1 days when they were getting obscene horsepower out of the turbo cars, is they were just using like pure toluene in them. But it's really, really nasty stuff, like cancer, bad stuff. It's really nasty. Well, this carburetor doesn't have a drain, and now I have it full of a octane booster, thus it doesn't want to run. And then there's a question of, well, how do I clean it? So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to let it sit. Part of my process of let's see if we can't clean up, get it running, was I got it running on starter fluid and just bumping it. Not a good thing to do, but you know, it's one of the things you just need to get it kick off running a little bit, and hopefully it can pull through whatever's in the carb and start getting you some good gas. Not working. I decided to go ahead and pull the main jet. Let's check it out again. I pulled it before starting all this, and discovered really hard to get out. And once it was out, I noticed the O-ring on it, which has a little rubber O-ring on it, had basically disintegrated. It swelled and was in pieces, and I was just like, okay. Right then and there I knew, carb's done, order a new one. Because everything inside of it probably is in that same state now, and there's going to be no flow through it. So again, you can go a little bit stronger than what they recommend, and it seemed to work really well. If I would have just done that, a second batch, probably would have had this running well. Would I have been trouble-free in the future when boondocking somewhere? Probably not. Best bet definitely is just to replace the carburetor. Now I know the generator, I've gone through, I guess, everything else but the carb. I knew that was the weak link. Replacing it means this thing's rock solid, ready to go. So we know it was silly not to do it to begin with. But if you have any running issues, this stuff actually, I think, works pretty well. So I wouldn't hesitate to use it again, but I would probably go a little bit stronger than what they recommend, but I wouldn't go crazy. Like what I did at the second phase, that was, in hindsight, that was stupid. So wish you guys luck with it if you ever have problems, and hopefully you never have a problem. And if you're in a situation of highly abused carburetor, like lack of use over long term, just buy a new carburetor. I got 2 days. It's not a lot of time, but over the course of 2 days, me out here fiddling with it, trying to figure out, oh, well, maybe I can cut a corner and not spend the money for a new carburetor. Just buy a new carburetor. Alright, if you have any questions, please ask.